Hello everyone. If it's your first time here, welcome to the channel, and if it's not, welcome back. I really appreciate all of the support. Today we're going to be doing something a little new on the channel. I've really been enjoying playing One Piece a lot lately, and so we're going to do a little bit of play testing with the winner's deck list for the latest regional, the Peoria regional in Chicago, Illinois. The winner won with Law. And so let's get into the deck profile a little bit. Starting off with the red 1-drops. So we have 4 Otama, which is pretty standard in all red decks, just 2k counter. 4 Nami, which is your searcher for a good portion of your deck. We have 3 Makino, which also a 2k counter, and at times can be used to pump up your Nami to make her a viable attacker. And then we also have 4 of the 1-drop blocker choppers. For the green 1-drops, we're running 4 Beige, same thing, 1-drop blocker. And for the searchers, we're running 4 of the Bonnies, which are the heart and soul of the deck. For the 2-drops, running 4 of the Curly Dedan, just another searcher for a good portion of your deck, searches your Otamas, your Namis, your Makinos, and your choppers. We're also running 2 of the Brook. This ideally should be 3. But in real life, I don't have 3 Brook. I have 2 Brook, and I happen to have a promo Luffy, so just kind of replaced it there. It's just a 2k counter. It's a Straw Hat Crew and a Supernova. So while it's not as useful as the Brook, it is searchable by both Bonnie and Nami. So it's an adequate replacement. After that, we get a little bit more into the higher end of the deck. So he was running 3 Zoros, 2 of the Rush Zoros, and then 1 of the starter deck Zoro. The starter deck Zoros, it's used completely different, but it's also very useful in a different way. And that's that with 1 Dawn, it pumps it up to a 7k attacker on your turn, and when it's not your turn, it's still a 6k. So it's a little bit harder to get rid of. We're running 2 of the green Zoro, the vanilla. It's a 4/6, it's a 1k counter. It's unfortunate that it's not a 3-drop. It'd be broken if it was a 3/6. So you can't play it down with your Law, but it's green, which at times you struggle with in this deck. Like if you don't see either of your Laws, it can be a little bit hard beating over some of your opponents, like high power characters. And so that's where the Zoro comes in a little bit, just to give you that extra target. Then we have the best deck, or the best card of the deck, which is your 4 of your 5-drop blocker Laws, which it just enables so many combos and so many plays. It's ridiculous. We also have 4 of the starter deck Laws, which you can cheat out for 2 energy, and you can just restand your Zoros, restand your Law. Even this Luffy can be restood, which this Luffy can have its uses with just 2 Dawn under it. It gets pumped up to a 7k. So there are times where I have used it. And then finally, for the event cards, we have 2 of the Radical Beams, which with Law, you start off as a 4 life lead already, but most of the time you go down to 2 pretty quickly. And then 2 of the Jet Pistols, which out of life is amazing most of the time. And if not, just getting rid of blockers. It's just so many things. So with that, that's the deck profile, and let's get into some gameplay. So for the first match, we actually have the Law Mirror. Decide to mulligan for the first one. Wanted to get some searchers, if possible, some Vistas, which would be really good here, but wasn't able to hit that. We do have the Nami, get a 2k counter. And then we also have the chopper to play down. So pretty good start. I think our opponent messes up a little bit from the beginning. You don't normally want to play your Bonnies to start. Because like I mentioned earlier, they're the heart and soul of the deck. And once you get rid of Bonnies, Law is a lot harder to play. You just don't have any of your high-end stuff. He plays 2 Bonnies and 2 Beige. So at least he has not tapped his Bonnies, so I can get rid of them pretty easily. Like I said, if I'd have some Vistas, it would be very easy to get rid of them. Play the Brook, just to get another body. Either way, he's most likely going to take it, whether I pump the leader or not. But attacking for 7 is always good. And then play my 2 blockers, and now I'm at 5 characters already, and can start doing some shambles shenanigans on my next turn. My opponent is at 5 Dawn now. He has 2 Bonnies to play, so he could tap the 2 Bonnies. Looking for a Law blocker. Decides to play the Otama, and that's what I was going to say, and then have another just 1 drop, and it leaves him with 2 energy, and he can switch it back, which he does here. I think my opponent misplays a little bit. He should have tapped one of the Bonnies first, and then put the Bonnie to his hand. That way he still had the 2 Beige blockers, and a Bonnie. Then his Bonnie would have been in hand. He could have kept her for later, and then still played the Zoro if he decided to. Now this way, like it makes it a little bit easier for me to clear his board. So I have my Nami to attack. I'll have my Brook still to attack, and honestly, I have 3 blockers, so I can attack with, lovely, cute little chopper. Or Tony Chopper. Swings for 5. Like I said, Law most of the time is just a 2-life leader, so I will take one of the hits, and then I'm contemplating whether to block or to counter. I think the best play, just counter the Zoro. I have 2 blocker laws, so I'm probably not going to play them. And then here, just attack his Bonnie with my Nami. See what he wants to do. He does have 2 blockers. If he decides to free block with his Law, decides to use a 2k counter, which I'm more than okay with, and then same thing, so I'll attack with the Brook. I want to get rid of his searchers. With that, it helps starve him of resources, and I do have my own Bonnie in hand, so as long as I can keep her from dying, then I'll start winning the resource gain, which in the mirror is the most important thing. Life doesn't matter too much. It's more so cards in hand, characters on board. Here I'm contemplating. Like I said, I think I attack with the chopper as well. Yeah, like I'll still have a Beige. I have the Law blocker for my shambles, so it'll still leave me with 2, maybe 3 blockers if I decide to replay. And I don't mind tapping my blockers when I have such a big character disparity, because if he decides to attack them, then they serve their purpose anyway, in a way. He doesn't have any small characters that can attack, so I don't feel bad about wasting that. If he attacks a Zoro into a chopper, then it's the same thing as if I would have blocked it from life, which I'm perfectly okay with. Here I play the Brook, because I want to put as much down as possible under my leader and attack the Zoro. If he decides to block with the Law, even better for me, but either way I cleared most of his board there. And I knew he's not going to counter 11k into a 5k from hand. It would just take him 4 cards, and I would definitely win at that point. And he just, 1 drop after 1 drop after 1 drop. So he's able to replenish his board, but it takes him his entire turn, and then now he can maybe shambles. Yep, which he does. He can shambles and play. He does have another Zoro though to attack. I was gonna say then I'm okay with all of that because it's just 1 attacker. Here this is an easy block with the Law. Keep the Law, and then if he decides to attack, then I have another blocker, and then I still have my two Tonys anyway. So nice and easy way to defend there. He was able to reestablish his board, but I do feel like I'm pretty ahead on resources at this point. He has a Bonnie, I have a Bonnie and a Nami, and then I still have another Law and a starter deck Law as well. Play the Bonnie first, always. Just kind of see what you get, because it could change what you decide to do. I was hovering over the Vista because I would have loved to be able to grab the Vista. Of course, Vista is not a supernova, so I'm not able to. So my 2 options are a Bonnie and a Zoro. I decided to get the Bonnie in case something happens and I either mess up and don't save my Bonnie, or just whatever the case may be, I have an extra Bonnie for more resources later on. And then here, just start swinging for 5 at the Zoro. If he blocks with his Law, then I can try to maybe kill the Law if possible. He has a lot of blockers, so I just kind of want to put him into a situation where he either gives me cards from hand or I get rid of his blockers on board. Either I'm okay with just kind of running him out of resources. I have another Law blocker in hand, so I don't mind attacking with the one I have on the field. Or on board, because I'm going to play another one anyway, and I still have 2 Tony choppers. Here I think I'm contemplating what I fully want to do. Yeah, just 7 into the Zoro. It's probably going to block with this Tony chopper. Yep. And then I can use my leader effect, put the 2K back into the hand, save my Bonnie, and then probably play my Nami to gain even more resources. So every turn, little by little, I'm just draining my opponent of resources, which is what you want to do in the mirror. Because here, I mean, he has to play 2 characters down, and then the third one would have to be something that he can shambles into. Does have the Nami. Plays the Nami, draws a Zoro. Plays the Bonnie. So Nami and Bonnie will help him kind of replenish his hand here. But I feel pretty okay in this situation. I have 3 blockers on board. I have my starter deck Law in hand. I have 2 Bonnies in hand. I have a Radical Beam now as well to help defend. And so I'm alright. I have two 2K counters, the Brook and the Otama. So he kind of has to attack for big numbers if he wants to get rid of my Law. But then I just have the Tonys to block. He starts putting Dawn on most of his characters. Maybe it's to attempt to attack at life, and he's worried about a jet pistol. I think my opponent is thinking whether he should attack the Law or attack my life. Either way, I'm probably just going to block with the Tony chopper. Like he's already shown me most of his turn by attaching his Dawn early. And so, yeah, so I know I'm thinking here that he's not going to attack with his second Law blocker. Honestly, here, I think, so I block with the Law so I can keep the Tony chopper, or if he decides to attack it anyway, but it's just a nice, easy 2K counter. I choose the Brook over the Otama. I just like the versatility of Otama. If I happen to draw a Vista, I can Otama the Zoro and then Vista it. Or just with him tapping all of his Law blockers, putting one down to 4 and then attacking with my own Law 6 to 4 just kind of guarantees to kill it. I mean, like I said, I wasn't scared to tap my Law earlier because I still have the Tony. I wasn't expecting him to attack with his second Law, but I do have the Otama for it. But I think if he does, yeah, so he does. I think that's a little bit of a misplay because now he has no blockers, 3 cards in hand, and I can just start picking his board apart. I have 2 Laws that can attack. I have a Nami that I could technically pump up and attack. I still have Bonnies to replenish my hand. I think he just realized maybe that he left his Bonnie, which I'm gonna get rid of now with the Nami, and that he has no blockers up. So play the Bonnie. Here I can get the Beige, I get the Zoro, or I can get the 2K counter. I like the Beige. Just I have enough of my high end. I have 2 Laws and a starter deck Law that I can just kind of keep cycling. And I can start getting rid of his board. I don't think it mattered what I chose there because of the advantage that I already have. And that I already had a Tony chopper. But more blockers is never a bad thing. Especially when I'm going to start tapping my Law blockers. And my opponent, just once I clear his board,
and for the second game, we have a Zoro matchup, which Zoro can be really scary, especially if
my opponent just
draw the gas and just run with it.
The GG for the first one.
Start off going first. I don't have the most ideal hand. I don't have any searchers, but as this is just play testing, I figured I'd just keep it. I do have the Vista for one of his 1-drops or the Don. And sometimes when I'm playtesting, I kind of like to keep hands that aren't ideal, because in real life you're not always going to get the most ideal hands. He plays the Nami into the Sunny, and so I think here it's just nice and easy. Swing for 5 first. See if he wants to get rid of any cards or just take the life. I'm okay with either. I don't have another blocker or any other 1-drops outside of the Nami, so I think the best play for me is just to play the Vista, get rid of the Sunny, and start kind of getting rid of his board little by little. My opponent's most likely going to put 1 under leader, exactly as most Zoros do on their turn. Swing for 6, and then probably put 2 under Nami, swing for 5, and play a 1-drop. And if he does that, I'm okay going down to 2 life. Like I stated previously, Law is a 4 life leader, but most of the time you kind of just start off as a 2. You want those extra resources in hand, and then once you get down to 2, you kind of start playing a little bit more aggressive. I will say Zoro is the one matchup where you kind of contradict that a little bit. You don't want to go down too early, because later on in life, especially if his board gets really wide, you're gonna struggle to keep the resources to kind of save your life. So. And then I got a Nami out of the first. I let the first one go so I can see what I get out of life, and then I counter out of the second one since I see I have the 2 Namis. 2 Nami searches should get me a Tony chopper at least. Attack with the Vista to clear the Nami, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Hoping for one of my Namis to hit a Tony, so then I can shambles out for my starter deck Law. And there we go. 10 cards in, you find a chopper. I like the jet pistol here in case he plays a Nico Robin. Nico Robin's really scary in this matchup. She can just start clearing your board. I put the Vista back in hand instead of the Nami. I like Vista in this matchup. You get rid of a lot of his characters. And if you can leave Zoro without a board, then they're not nearly as threatening. My opponent does have a lot of cards in hand, so we can see what he decides to do here. He's at 6 Dawn, so it could be 2 Zoro plays. That could be a Robin and a Zoro. Could be Dadan and some 1-drops, or Dadan and a Zoro. It is a Dadan, which is never a bad thing. What could he be hoping for here? Another Nami. He gets a Sunny-kun. Probably play the Sunny-kun and a Zoro. Jet Pistol's my Law, which I'm perfectly okay with. Here I'll probably take this. Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with that. I spent 2 energy to play my Law, and I draw another one. So I spent 2 energy, and he spent his entire turn getting rid of it. So I'll take that trade any day. I have the Vista for the Dawn. Here I'm counting my Dawn. I kind of want to make sure that I play as efficiently as possible. I could play the Vista, swing for 7, and then swap the Nami for the starter deck Law. Let's see what I decide to do here. I can swing for 5. Could even play the Makino. No, the Vista is probably the best play. Attacking for 7 taps me out though. And playing against red, I don't always like tapping out early, in case they happen to hit a jet pistol out of life. I do swap out for the, well actually, okay, so that was why I didn't attack for 7 earlier. I swapped the Beige out instead. I still have the Tony Chopper blocker, and then I can start playing a little bit more aggressive here as I'm getting rid of my opponent's board. And I still have a blocker in case he plays a few rush cards, so I'm not too worried. I have decent hand size, where I have at least a Makino as a 2K. And really, unless he has 2 Zoros, which there's one, then I'm not too worried. He's probably gonna attack my Zoro. Yep. And so I'll 2K counter most likely out of this one. Nice and easy 2K counter. And then I figured I could block the next one unless he happens to have another Zoro, in which case that would really suck, but not much I can do about it. If he has it, he has it. Yeah, so attacks again. And I think I block. Yep, block, try to save the Zoro. And if he has it, he has it. I mean, there's just not much I can do about that. And he does. So, yep, don't have another 2K in hand. So just kind of let it go. Finally draw a blocker law. Contemplating my moves here. I have the Didan, I have the Beige that I could play down. I also want to try to get rid of the Zoros though. I do have a Jet Pistol for the Zoro. I believe that's the play I go for here. Jet Pistol isn't always the best in this matchup, just because, I mean, your real targets are your Zoros or your Nico Robins. So probably going to attack for 5, then maybe attack for 5 with the Vista. That'd be 6 Dawn. No, because then I wouldn't be able to shambles out. See what my opponent does here. I like swinging for 5 just because it makes your opponent, my opponent kind of have to guess what he wants to do. Play the Didan, get a Chopper. I have 7 Dawn, so that's perfect for the Jet Pistol. Play the Chopper or the Beige, and then shambles. And I was at least able to get rid of 1 Zoro and establish multiple blockers. There's an argument to be made here to get the Vista back in hand, to keep using it to clear his board. But 2 searchers in hand is always nice. So it is the 10 Dawn turn. So I'm worried about Whitebeard. Whitebeard could be pretty scary here. Boosts his leader to 7 while he still has 3 life. And I have an okay board, but I don't really have a lot of high power cards on board. Plays the Sunny. Trying to see, looking at how many Sunnies he might still have. Maybe 1 more in life. Or not in life, in deck. Swings for 9 at life. Could either block. Yeah. Block with either. I normally like to block with a red blocker first. As I have the Nami, I can shambles out the Nami. You don't shambles out green too often, but if I happen to draw a Zoro, don't really want to shambles out my blocker law. So swings for another 9. I think you just block with the other Beige. Yeah. And then he leaves 2 Dawn up. Which arguably a misplay on my opponent's part is playing the Sunny before attacking in case I happen to hit a Jet Pistol out of life if I let those go. But I blocked both, so maybe he was considering that I would block. Swing for 5. Keep just draining resources out of my opponent's hand. It's all about maintaining tempo. So if I start attacking life, leave his characters on board, he'll just keep gaining more and more resources. I swing for 8. That way I have 3 up still for Dadan and Nami, and then 2 for the Shambles. And because I knew he had a guard point, which he drew earlier, so I knew if he used the guard point now, he'd have to use the guard point and 1 more. Play the Dadan, get a Nami. Play the Nami and get a Zoro, which is why you play the Zoro. You don't use it too often, honestly, but it helps to not whiff as much as Nami. Then just Shambles out, get the Dadan back, get the Vista back, replay the Vista to kill the Sunny. And once again here, I feel like I'm in an even better position than I was in last turn. My opponent has 2 cards in hand, a Zoro, and I think I have a pretty firm grasp. I still have Dadan in hand and Nami in case he starts getting rid of my board. I have a starter deck law to get a little bit more aggressive if I decide to. Swings for 9. I think I just take. Yeah. I'm okay going down to 1 life here because I have such a strong board presence. I hovered over it because I was looking to see if it was a jet pistol, which I guess in this case wouldn't have mattered as Zoro was at 8k instead of 6. And my opponent could swing again for big numbers. At that point, I probably would just let go of one of the laws. Yeah, swings for 8. Probably just block with the law. Clear up a little bit of space on the board. But I'm pretty okay in this situation. My opponent doesn't have too much. Draw the Otama, which is nice. Can Otama the Zoro. Put it down to 3. Just put 2 on the Vista though. Swing for 5. Guess he doesn't have either doesn't have counter or doesn't want to counter. And then now that I've cleared his board, cleared most of his resources, I can start going for life a little bit. Once again, just kind of doing some math, making sure I don't misclick. Definitely done that before on the sim where you just kind of misclick, and in law it's pretty terrible when you have an entire turn set up, and because you misclicked an extra Dawn, then now you can no longer make your plays. Put 3 under the Nami, swing for 5. It's kind of going wide instead of tall, as I see that my opponent doesn't have too much counter. So just swing for 5, swing for 5. Yep. And then I have a Dadan or Nami I could play. Nami might be better here. Nami'd probably be better. So then I can still Shambles and leave 1 up for the Radical Beam. Yep. And then I can get either Tony Chopper or a 2K. Get the Tony. I have the Otama and the Radical Beam in hand, so I'm okay on counters. And I restand my Law blocker to have another blocker. And I feel like I'm pretty okay. I've gotten rid of most of his Zoros, so he shouldn't have too many rush characters left. He could still have Luffy, but if he has 2 Luffy, I mean, that's only a 5, a 6, and a 6. Be pretty easy to get out of those swings. Even if he has a Luffy, puts a bunch of Dawn on Luffy, a bunch of Dawn on Zoro, I can just block 1 with the Law, take 1 of the hits, or even have Radical Beam and Otama to boost up to 11k. Yep, swings for 8, and easy decision. I thought for a second that it was 9k, which is why I'm hesitating. But then I realized it's just an 8k, and it's like, oh, that's easiest Radical Beam ever. And I want to say my opponent scoops after that. It's not always common to see Radical Beam. After this regional
you'll probably see Radical Beam in law decks a lot more, but it's normally not too common. And for the final game, we have a match against Magellan, who's an interesting leader. He can take a lot of people by surprise, especially if he can play the 5-drop Magellan on curve. So I decided to go first so that he can't play Magellan on turn 5. I have Mulligan, I get the Nami and the Bonnie, so it's always really good to see, and I have the Dodon and the Chopper now as well. So don't have a lot of my high end, but a good bit of searchers to help me find some of that eventually. Plays the Hannibal on turn 1 and the stage card. Not too familiar with this matchup, so I kind of read over it again just to familiarize myself with it. On my turn, I just play the Brook, swing for 7, and then just play the Chopper. I could have played the Dodon, but figured I'd just be a little bit more aggressive. Swings for 5. Just probably always gonna take the first hit, and then he swings for 6 here, and then same thing. I just kind of decided to take it. I have plenty of resources and a good bit of plays. Swing with Nami. I have 5 Dawn. I can do a Bonnie, use her ability, see if I hit the law. Don't. So I can either get the Jet Pistol or the Zoro. I think either is okay, but I like the Jet Pistol for the Magellan in case he does play it. Just get it off the board as soon as possible. Then play a Nami. Oh, swing for 5. See what my opponent wants to do, whether he wants to get rid of a card or just take the life. He's thinking about it and he decides to take it, which I'm perfectly okay with. And same thing, so I just play the Nami, get the Zoro into hand, and then activate the ability. Nami back in hand to play the Resand Law to resand the Bonnie so that he doesn't get an easy kill on the Bonnie. The ideal situation would be to get the Blocker Law to be able to put the Bonnie back in hand, but this works just as well. He does have the King though, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets rid of the Bonnie here. It's probably his best target, or decides to get rid of the Chopper, which I'll take that all day, every day. Contemplating what to do here. I do have a 2K. The reason I'm contemplating it so much is because I have the Otama and I have the Jet Pistol. So I could play the Otama, lower the King to 5, and then Jet Pistol it. But then I'd have to get rid of 2 searchers, and I decide to do that. I still have 1 more Nami, and I have a Bonnie, which Bonnie is the heart and soul of the deck. So, uses the stage effect, draw 1, discard 1, gets rid of the 5-drop. I use Bonnie search, get a Beige. Still haven't hit my law, but that's okay. Then, I kind of mess up here a little bit. I maybe shouldn't have used Bonnie and should have just Otama, Jet Pistol, and then shambled. But that's alright. So now here, can swing for... I could swing for 7, but purple normally doesn't run too many 2K counters. So I believe that I want to swing for... I swing for 6 and 6. Just to try to get some more 2Ks out. It probably is more correct to do the 7 and 5. That way you get an extra card out of hand. But this way you're either guaranteed 2 2Ks versus the other way you'd get a 2K and 2 1Ks. Or he just takes the life.
And he does give me 2-2Ks, so I'm perfectly fine with that. End my turn, and he passes. He'll probably attack the Bonnie here. I'm being a little bit less safe with the Bonnie than I would in other matchups or in other games, but that's mainly because I have another Bonnie in hand. And so at this point, she's already replaced herself. I've actually drawn 2 cards off of her already. And if he attacks her, then it's almost like an extra bonus because now she's working like a blocker in a way. Plays the Queen. Gets rid of the Douglas Bullet. And he swings into the Nami. Or the Bonnie, sorry. So yeah, Bonnie she just put in work this game. Got 2 searches and she blocked a 6K swing. So I don't have any 2Ks and I didn't actually have any blockers in hand. Or on board, which I knew he would swing into the Bonnie at that point. And yeah, just play a new Bonnie. I have the Beige. I also have the 2K counter option. I have the Zoro, and then I have the option of another Bonnie. So I don't have the Law. So that's why I'm contemplating so much. Bonnie's probably the best option here, but you almost can't go wrong. I do get the other Bonnie though, just because I don't have a way to save the one that I currently have on board. So her just replacing herself is perfect. Swing for 8 here. He has 2 Dawn up, so could have a Hell's Judgment. So this way, if he does, then he has to give me a Hell's Judgment and another card. And he does have the Hell's Judgment. So he does it on my leader and my starter deck law. But that's fine. I want to say I just put 2 Dawn under Brook and then just swing for... 3 Dawn, sorry. 3 Dawn under Brook. Swing for 6 in case he decides to block with the Queen. He's got to give me another card. And then I can still have 2 Dawn up left to shambles. And he does give me a 2K. And then I'll put the I shambles out the Brook, get a 2K counter in hand, play the starter deck law to resend my other law. And same with the Bonnie. Like I could have restood the Bonnie, but I have another one in hand, so I'm okay. If he wants to attack her every turn, I'm okay with that. She's, like I said, she already replaced herself and now she's acting like a blocker. So 9K, take that. I'm not gonna get rid of multiple cards out of hand. And then he plays another blocker. I was reading the effect to see what it does on KO. I know all of the Minotaur and the Koala have an effect on when it gets KO'd. Play the Bonnie, finally get the Law. I contemplated the Jet Pistol for a second, but I just need to start moving some of my pieces on board. The Otama and the Nami have just kind of been sitting there, and so with the new Law I can start moving them around. Put 2 on my Law, swing for 8 at the Queen. That way he has to give me 2 cards out of hand or block, and he just lets it go because he knows that I still have my other Law to attack as well. Now that it's gone, I can just swing for 7. I thought about swinging for 8 here. He does hit the Shiki out of life, which if he uses it to attack my board, makes sense for him to play as a trigger, but if not, then it's probably better as a 2K counter. He does block this one, gets the Dawn, shambles out the Otama for my Law, put the Bonnie back in hand to save her, and put another blocker down. So now we're rolling. My opponent is at 9 Dawn. I mean, he could play the 9-drop Kaido, KO the Law, but then I still have the Beige. I still have Bonnie. I mean, I have so many cards in hand. Swings for 6, which is a good number. I do have multiple 2Ks here, though. Um, I'm deciding if I should. Yeah, so I decide to keep my 2K block with the law. It makes it to where if he wants to get rid of the law, it almost invites him to do it, and then he has to use a lot more Dawn on the Shiki to attack it. And either way, I still have the Beige. I have 2 Dodons, so I'm okay getting rid of one, and just keeping my 2Ks for when 2K counters for when I truly need them. Does play the Minotaur and plays a blocker Koala, but here I'm perfectly fine. Just start swinging for 7. He only has 2 cards in hand, so he has to get rid of them both to save himself. And I feel super comfortable in this match, especially now that I have the other law, and just, I mean, my what I can do is almost endless at this point. I have another Bonnie, Nami, Dodon. I mean, 2Ks. I have a Vista that I can, at some point, if I decide to play the Otama, Vista, get rid of the blocker or the Minotaur. But I can honestly even go for game here. No, I don't have a Resend or a Zoro. But I start swinging. Swing for 7. No, I can. I think I decide to try. Swing for 5. He's not giving me any counters, so at this point I'm just like, if I'm okay with it. I have 3 Dawn still up, so I think that's why I decided to attack with the Nami. Swing for 5 with the Nami. If he gives me a card, he gives me a card. If not, perfectly fine. Put the Nami back in hand to put the other law. Then use the action. I put the starter deck law, and then I put a bunch of Dawn under my law. I'm saying a lot of laws, but and then swing for 9, and my opponent can't do anything about that. So that is a good game and a GG to my opponent. Okay, and for my final thoughts on the deck, so I've play tested multiple styles of law. I've play tested this one, the Miyagi, Los Fiends has come out with the deck list that I've play tested, and I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I seem to have a lot more cards in hand with this version of the deck. It could be that Nami whiffs a little bit less, since you have the 2 Radical Beams that she could hit, and the 2 Zoros. The 2 Zoros, I'm still a little torn on. I like that it gives you that extra option in case you don't happen to get either of your laws, which when you don't see your law, you struggle tremendously with in this deck. And so it does help, but if I have either of my laws, then there's almost never a situation in which I see myself playing the Zoro. And I know it has the same power as the law, but with it being a 4 cost instead of a 5 cost, it's, especially when you play against purple, it's a little bit more susceptible to the 6-drop king. But I do like that it gives you that extra target on Nami, and it is a 1K. Other notable cards that aren't being played in this list are Drake. I think I like not playing Drake though. It's very good in the situations when you actually use it, but with Drake a lot of the times you just kind of keep it in your hand, and it's almost like you're waiting for that situation to present itself, and so it just feels a little slow. I mean, outside of that, the deck is super stable. It still struggles with the same things that any law deck struggles with, and that's if you don't see Bonnie and you're green, you're going to struggle. You're almost playing behind the entire time, because all you're really doing are playing a bunch of weenies on board. Like you're just playing Nami into choppers, into maybe using the Machinos to pump up the Namis, but really you just have a lot of 2 power or 2K power, 3K power characters on board, and
and as the game goes on, you just start falling more and more behind if you don't happen to get to law. And you'd think that doesn't happen too often with as many searchers as you have, but there are some games where when it does happen, it just feels pretty terrible. I will say though that with law being the most, I think it's the most explosive deck in the format. Just when it goes off, it goes off. So that's the good thing about it. You're gonna feel, there's gonna be a lot of games that you're gonna feel behind, and all of a sudden you just two searches, fall just right, and you're off to the races. So I really recommend trying out Law. It's a really fun deck. You do second guess yourself a lot with it, but the more you play it, the more experience you'll get. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that you all have an amazing day.